Now, we are all working and living in a complex and rapidly changing world. We've heard from our speakers this morning and yesterday about that. Within Science and Insights Division in the New South Wales DQ, our science and research responds to 3 strategic focus priorities: the increasing impacts of natural hazards and climate change, declining natural capital in New South Wales, and the really increasing complexity of environmental issues and the role of environmental foresighting. These priorities are shared across all jurisdictions and globally. We have to ensure that our science and research fills the need, the many needs that government and decision makers have to make good decisions with the information that they have available to them. I'd like to speak through some of the specific science and research programs that are underway to specifically improve outcomes for species. So that includes a dedicated threatened species assessment team to support the New South Wales Threatened Species Scientific Committee with conservation assessments, so that the information is up to date and accurate, and that the protection is appropriate for the species that need it. And we heard from James this morning about how varied that can be. Last year, we also released guidance material on how to better weave Aboriginal knowledge, traditional and contemporary ecological knowledge, into conservation assessments, so that we can bring together 2 powerful knowledge systems to better understand the threat of extinction for species. With the state at risk of losing over 1,000 species, the New South Wales Government established almost 10 years ago the Saving Our Species program, which is a flagship threatened species program looking at securing threatened species in the wild in the next 100 years. Science is incorporated into almost every aspect of the Saving Our Species program, but new research is particularly focused on better on-ground interventions and management actions, particularly at the site scale, integrating Aboriginal ecological knowledge, and filling priority knowledge gaps to meet end user needs, again, particularly at the site scale. Recent projects are really focused on new technologies and innovation, and that includes things like using artificial intelligence, using eDNA, using conservation detection dogs, which I don't know if that falls into the description of new technology, to abate the threat of Phytophthora. It would be remiss of me not to talk about threatened species and not mention koalas. They are, after all, our flagship species for conservation, and they attract global interest and significant funding. The Koala Science program under the New South Wales Koala Strategy is structured in 3 tiers, and that includes the first statewide assessment of the distribution and abundance of koalas using direct observation. It includes a landscape scale population monitoring program at 20 sites across New South Wales, tracking population change over time. And finally, the Koala Sentinel project, which is delivered in partnership with Taronga. And that's looking at demography, disease and genetic diversity across 6 reference populations in New South Wales. And the outputs of this extraordinary investment in conservation research for koalas means that we've been able to explore new technologies, and that particularly includes using drones with infrared cameras to survey for koalas, really improving detection and providing a standard survey method with extraordinarily high confidence for that cryptic species. Detailed description and understanding around distribution and population trends, and enhanced knowledge for koala management and interventions over time. Introducing adaptive monitoring frameworks so that we can change our action with what we know at the time as it becomes available to us. Using building data so that we can have predictive models to explore scenarios into the future, better stepping into that space of environmental foresight in an increasingly complex world, and looking towards interoperability with other jurisdictions, which some of us may have heard Fiona speak about yesterday. And building the technology so that we have data pipelines and relational databases and legacy data products. We have terabytes of statewide soundscapes and drone survey footage now, and hopefully that will be able to be used in many ways and for many other species. For bushfire science in particular, we're really progressing a risk-based approach. And I reflect on what James just spoke about when it comes to risk. So the risk-based approach is really focused on asset protection, but also landscape management when it comes to climate change, bushfire and natural hazards. Building an in-house capacity for applied bushfire research has been a purposeful objective for DECU since the 2019-20 fires. We have a multidisciplinary team, and that includes fire ecologists and Aboriginal cultural scientists and remote sensing scientists and soil researchers and social researchers, all working together to protect the environment and cultural values. And we work really closely with key partners, particularly in fire management agencies like the Rural Fire Service and the National Parks and Wildlife Service, so that our research is co-designed and the outcomes influencing the decision making and drive the change that's needed, really focusing on reducing the amount of time between research and on-ground action in particular. And a primary focus of that team has been to the update of products to assist fire managers to protect threatened species from fire, from inappropriate fire. And that includes looking at long-term and new post-fire data sets and the knowledge of threatened species experts to update things like the Threatened Species Hazard Reduction List, something that hasn't been updated in more than a decade. I'd like to talk about the cultural science team, which is unique in Australia, and I'm very, very fortunate to be able to work with a dedicated team of Aboriginal cultural scientists. In recent years, the cultural science team have developed a statewide data set and methodology to consider the risk of Aboriginal heritage to fire, and that addresses a significant gap in how Aboriginal cultural and heritage is addressed in fire planning in New South Wales. And that product is now used by every single bushfire risk management committee to assist with planning for cultural issues. They're developing a cultural monitoring, evaluation and reporting framework that can be used by government, not-for-profits and community to better understand change. And we're really supporting community-led approaches to identify cultural values and land management for healthy country. This is on the far south coast for now, but it will grow in time. The listing of threatened species, the Saving Our Species program, the koala strategy and the Applied Bushfire Science program all illustrate the need for and the value of good data to inform decision making. And as we heard from James earlier, decision making can happen quickly and it can happen slowly. And you need information to inform decisions at both of those speeds. We're all aware that there are many initiatives and institutions and groups that collect nature data across New South Wales and Australia and globally for a wide variety of purposes. And the Biodiversity Indicator Program has established indicators and targets that utilise the range of environmental data to report on the status and trends of biodiversity and ecological integrity in New South Wales. And that's published in Biodiversity Outlook reports, and connecting back to what James Watson mentioned earlier, we actually do report on how confident we are in that data and those indicators each time. The New South Wales Government's plan for nature identifies a range of actions around data-informed decision making to better capture, analyse, manage and utilise biodiversity data. It recognises that curated data is required to ensure a transparent and open understanding of biodiversity status and trends and the impacts of threats and management interventions. One thing is clear, nature is declining and it must be set on a pathway to recovery. Our ambition is to protect what is left, restore what has been degraded and set biodiversity on that pathway. Additional effort has to be directed into proactive landscape scale biodiversity protection, restoration and management. And we have heard how little has been invested across Australia at the moment in that. We must go beyond the aim of halting loss to one of achieving overall ecosystem gain. This ambition to protect and to restore and improve biodiversity in New South Wales will contribute to nature positive aims, which are established at national and international levels. But this can't be done alone. We can all be agents of positive change, but we will have the greatest impact and outcomes by working together. My key recommendations for how we improve on-ground outcomes for species include working at the right scale, both at the site and at the landscape scale, and having that nested understanding. that we have integrated and multidisciplinary approaches so that we seek the information, the wide variety of information we need to make the decisions that we have to. That we step forward and we step backwards really. We allow our First Nations people to lead research, to manage country. That we move into adaptive management so that we learn as we go. And that we are generous with what we know. Particularly we're generous with our failures, our learnings from failures, and generous with our learnings of successes so that others can learn from us. And we have to share what we know. We have to communicate, and we have to make sure that what we know is accessible so that everyone can use it. We can't just hold it in ways that are inaccessible. It has to be open and available and transparent for all. Thank you.